Bonjour and bonsoir, dear friends, and welcome to JCB Live. This is almost the end of January, and this is such an exciting time because this is a new year. We're celebrating 2021. Today, we're going to celebrate with two amazing people. They've been together for 28 years, known each other for 43. They're incredible, both of them psychotherapists. They help people in joy and serenity. They are big believers of the senses. They've themselves wrote 3 books of huge success. And one of them I'm holding, Soul for the Dark Nights. Very exciting book. And I'm very thrilled because they come from a special recommendation. I had the pleasure to meet them at Patrick and Michelle wedding. Patrick, who runs all our marketing and communication, and Michelle, his beautiful wife in the wine world. And we listened to Patrick presenting the union of those two very unique individuals under a magnificent 200-year-old tree. And we had an enlightenment, an awakening of life, and certainly a further passion for life. So that evening, together, having a great time and celebrating this wonderful union, we said, we got to share to the world your passion, our passion, for the senses and the lesson learned with all the great people that you've encountered throughout your life, you've advised, and you've changed life and helped to be who they are today. So, dear friends, I'm delighted to bring Sue Fleming and the famous Patrick Fleming to the JCB Live. Here they are. Woo!
Oh, beautiful.
And you see Sue and Patrick, we just brought 2 glasses of beautiful Passion Collection of crystal. Did you hear the sound? Ooh, I love this sound. Cheers.
Cheers. And Happy New Year, Jean-Charles.
To a magnificent new year. And first, I want to toast to your friendship of 43 years together. And Pat and Sue, you being married for 28 and sharing an incredible practice together. How do you last 28 years living together and having a psychotherapy practice together? That's an achievement on its own.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Well,
so how do you do that?
We pulled this off. How did we do this?
We talk a lot.
We communicate a lot.
We talk a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We leave almost nothing unsaid. We talk about everything that's happening, that comes up, so that it never becomes between us.
When I first met Pat, I remember something bothered me in April. And around September, I finally told him about it. And Pat said, "Why didn't you tell me in April?" I said, "I was too afraid." So I learned a lesson. When you think it and feel it, share it.
Well, easier said than done, Sue. And I commend you for going so fast. All of us as couple, men together, women together, men and women together, how do you suggest to unleash and release and allow yourself to be as honest as you were? Because we hold up things and this is what creates problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was reflecting on that, and the image of the diamond in the rough came to me. And I'm not a diamond miner, but I'm aware that in the mine, you don't see the diamond, but you see the roughness of it, and somehow they recognize it. But putting that on the human side as a diamond in the rough, having the courage through the years, and it takes a lot of courage to allow yourself to be chiseled, if you will, to really hear feedback, to hear suggestions, to work with people. And eventually you start seeing a little shining light, your own diamonds coming out of the rough, your own magnificent self. It's a process. I'm 85 years young. It's taken a while, and I'm not out of the rough.
Well said. Well, congratulations. Pat, any comments to that? How did you succeed for you as on the receiving end after this moment in April to react and positively and be constructive about it? Because it's not easy either.
No, there's several things I think that we have created between us, you know, and in our 43 years together. One is a really deep friendship. We were first friends, we were first colleagues actually, and then we worked together, and then we became friends, and that went on for quite a while before we got romantically involved and got married. So the friendship is really at the core, okay, of our relationship. You know, we like each other, we enjoy each other. Even being quarantined this last year, you know, having more time together, we've had a lot of fun with it, actually. We get on each other's nerves occasionally. but
those things can happen.
Those things happen, but really in general, we've had a lot of fun, you know, just being together more and more this last year.
We laugh a lot. Yeah.
I think another part is that our early relationship was also based on some common joint, incredible experiences of nature and of spirituality and working with people that brought us together at a really deep level. So I really feel like we are bonded as friends, as lovers, as husband and wife, but also not as, I don't like the word soulmates, but at the soul level, almost like twin souls that we connect to each other. And those have been based on some marvelous experiences we've had together.
That's incredible. Well, congratulations. And I hope you're going to continue tonight to enlighten us on how to get to that point of discussion. Because I think the hardest within couples, whatever they are, wherever they come from, two males, two females, one husband and wives, whatever walks of life, is to get to that point of allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and discuss any issues and bring it up. So how do you use the alchemy of the senses yourself to facilitate this?
Well, you know, as you said at the beginning, Jean-Charles, we both applied. We're therapists and authors, but we apply some of this to our professional work, but also, as you said, to our personal life. We're addiction and trauma therapists primarily. That's our specialties. What we've seen with our clients is that they become, as a result of trauma and addiction, they become distant from their own bodies, even sometimes alienated from their own bodies, distant from nature, distant from their emotions, distant socially. Okay, and the term that's used is dissociation. You're pulled away from these core parts of yourself and your life by trauma, by addiction. Now, but by the way, when we're talking about trauma, you can talk about big trauma like abuse, or you can just talk about the distinctions made between big T trauma and little T trauma. Big T is things like abuse and
yes,
and rape, and being hit by a fire engine, as Sue was. But there's also small T. Those are the kind of just difficult stresses in our life that happen really to all of us, not just those who are victims of the big T traumas. And particularly in this last year,
yes,
we've all been going through at least small T trauma, if not big T trauma. So these dissociations can really happen to all of us. And what we've learned for ourselves personally, and also with our therapy clients and in our writing, is that what has to happen is you have to reassociate. You have to connect to your physical self, to your body, connect to nature, and connect to your senses. And the Alchemy of Senses, your wonderful book, really brings out how we can get back in touch with, reassociate with, with our senses and nature, and socially also, through things like good wine and great food, and joining together like we did at Patrick and Michelle's wedding. So that's that's part of what we do with our clients is we use the term learn to listen to your body again. Learn to hear what your body is telling you, particularly about what it's needing. And we really encourage them to do something like take a bubble bath, take a warm shower, have a wonderful walk on a beautiful day in nature.
Yes.
All those things reconnect you to who you are and to your goodness and the goodness of life.
Some of our best conversations, I believe, is when we've been walking outside along with nature. And many times we're walking in silence, but it's looking at a tree or hearing a bird or the sound of shushing through the leaves. And that sparks something inside of us that draws us closer. And it also frees the voice box and relaxes the voice muscles to let a sound come out and start talking. Because sometimes we're just frozen inside and it can't come out. And we have to learn to have a voice.
That's beautifully said. And, it obviously echoes so much to me and to all of us in Napa and Sonoma, because nature speaks to us, as you said so well. And the walks in the vineyards, the walk under the oak trees, the walk outside really encourage us, I think, to really find that level of voice that really encourages for all what we've said. Very true. Now, within this time of challenge, turmoil, the last year we've lived, we had this discussion together, almost on the dance floor. How do you recommend for people to find their inner peace or to work within this exact phenomenon that we are in search of? I know it's a big question.
Oh, yes, it is.
I
know no question is unanswered with the both of you. We have two major brains in front of us. We're very fortunate.
I send out a love memo once a month to an organization I belong to. And at the end, I put a treatment plan. And the very first number on the treatment plan is to take in a deep breath and be conscious of it. Yeah. Because
I'm working on it.
Without our breath, we're prone to be aware of the life-giving breath. And then once a day, at least, now this is here in St. Louis, where we've had some pretty rough weather lately and very gray skies, to get outside. Hopefully there's sunshine so you can get vitamin D and get invigorated by the warmth and the brightness of the sun, and to feel it on your skin and your face. I'm in a wheelchair and Pat takes me on a rock and roll in my wheelchair, and it's frightening. It's frightening.
She doesn't trust my driving of the wheelchair. We live in a hilly neighborhood too.
Sue, he does a pretty good job. I saw him taking you with rhythm on the dance floor within the music at the wedding.
That's right. We danced with
pretty good.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
The other thing, I'm trying to think. Oh, to call at least one person a day, friend, relative, shut-in, whoever it might be. It takes you out of yourself and you start listening to them. And sometimes they're feeling very similar feelings as you're having. That's life-giving. Can you think of the rest of the treatment plan?
Sure. One of the things that in recent years in psychology and psychotherapy have become a very strong part of a treatment plan for healing from all kinds of stress and trauma is what's called mindfulness.
That's it.
And mindfulness meditation, but also just general mindfulness practice. what that means is that you want to be as much in the present moment as possible. Okay, and you want to be here now, not what's going on in the news, or what happened in the past, or what might happen in the future. You want to be here in the present. Okay, one of the ways to do that is called mindfulness meditation, and the original Zen version of that was being, like Sue said, being in touch with your breath, focusing on your breathing. And that's a very powerful way to do it. Okay. Some other people find it helpful to say a short chant or prayer while they're doing it. But a whole nother way to be mindful, okay, is through the senses. To take a glass of wine, be completely present.
That I can do.
do that along with us, please, in the audience.
Let's do it together.
Together. And you.
So we should recommend all our friends with us tonight to take a wine glass. They hopefully already have one.
Yes.
Very well trained. But take a wine glass, and with Pat, let's do it.
So you swish it to get a little bit of the aroma, and then have a taste, and let it wash over your tongue, and let your taste buds completely take it in, and just be present to that. Let it fill your senses. All your senses. Feel tactily the wonderful texture of the crystal.
Yeah.
And have another sip of the wine.
I like that you recommend two. The first one was not enough.
Of course. Now, as therapists, especially addiction therapists, we have to say it's always in moderation. And in fact, if you get beyond moderation, you actually numb your senses. So anyway, so through the senses, you can become present to the present moment.
I'd like to share a mindful story. My oldest grandson was 3, and it was a very cold January day in St. Louis. The sky was bright, bright blue, so we bundled up. He wanted to go for a walk. So we bundled up, went down the driveway, turned right on the street, and he stopped. Now he's got a snow cap on, I've got earmuffs on, we're all bundled up, and he says, "Granny, listen." And I said, "I don't hear." "Jason, what?" "Granny, listen." And he tugged on my arm. He's 3, little short guy. And we walked a little bit further, and he kept stopping and saying, "Granny, listen." So we walked a little further and crossed over a lawn, and there was a stream, a little creek, we call it in St. Louis. And we went to the edge of the stream. There must have been 4 stones stacked on each other, and the water was trickling over the stones. And he said, "Granny, look at the waterfall." Just talk about the senses and being mindful of the moment. Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And whatever the age, I think we all need to be engaged in all the senses. I agree with you. Hence the name of the book, as you know. But
Yes.
talking about wine and food, it brings and preserves a certain equilibrium. So do you want to tell us more about your view and your feeling about that?
Well, really one of the best examples that I can think of from, of my recent life was Patrick and Michelle's wedding. Okay. The combination of course, their love that brought us here, and under the, with the pandemic in the background, and having to take all the precautions, and having a much smaller wedding group because of that, but still, they celebrated their love so beautifully and sensuously through the senses. Marvelous wines, of course, all Bossé wines.
But I'm afraid that they didn't feel they had the choice. Maybe they may have
probably
chosen
they
many other
didn't.
wines that night.
Yeah. So the credible wines, awesome food, just incredible food, some of the best food I've ever had, ever, and all in beautiful natural settings. The dinner at Raymond and the Sycamore Grove, I think it is, and then the dinner outside in the piazza, the day of the reception after the wedding. Okay, gorgeous natural settings, and then just the wonderful warm interaction facilitated by good food and good wine. Okay, to me that event was the most powerfully hopeful thing I've experienced in this whole very difficult year. That was the soul light in the dark night of 2020.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful.
And when I think about that, well, first of all, and whenever I have any of the 1.5 acres, which Patrick and you all served at the one dinner, if I could bring this in, whenever I have any of this, the taste of it, just closing my eyes, being present, just brings me back to that moment of that atmosphere of love and that warm, beautiful evening we spent outdoors sharing this great wine and great food. The other day I was thinking that as I talked about, thought about what we're going to talk about, I thought, so this made me realize that wine is a vaccine against despair.
Mm.
It's an inoculation of hope, and an inoculation of the goodness of life and each other.
Wow, this is so well said. You're bringing shivers. I'm going to rush to 1.5 acre. I'm still on number 49, and you moved.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had to go to.
I love it. Well, we can start with dessert and finish with the savory too. That's a good way to do it. But this is so well said. Thank you for enlightening us to, I appreciate as well, as you said, the present moment. Mm-hmm. And living life as the present time, and listening and allowing ourselves to be really aware of what surrounds us. Yes. It's well, maybe it's a perfect time. You use the term, which is the title, Soul Light for the Dark Night. So I think it's an amazing book, and I hope everybody tonight gets it. And Amazon seems to be the best place, obviously, to obtain it, and everybody is having the link now. Would you want to tell us a little bit about the book and some of the powerful forces throughout the book that you want to share?
Well, the book is kind of a distillation of our 33, 34 years as therapists, okay, and as speakers. We also do a lot of speaking. And the things that we have found clients, but also in our own life's experience, because some of the there's a meditation for each day, and some of the meditations are really come from our own personal experience, and so it's really looking at all aspects of the healing process from all kinds of stress and trauma, and different ways, through the senses, through our bodies, through our minds, but also particularly through our souls, that we can find healing. So there's very definitely a very spiritual part of this as well. And so, we took various things that have happened to us, and then reflected on them in the light of our work with clients, and said, this, I think, is gives a portal, an opening into a way past or through this difficult trauma, or this inner woundedness of some kind.
And I find it unbelievable, empowering, the way you speak the truth in the book, and you talk about the cycle of trauma and abuse, and how you dedicate it as well to all the brave survivors of it. And today is January 27th, and I think Pat and Sue, you actually created this one for me. You say, unless you change and become like a little child, you will not enter the kingdom of God. And this was from Matthew, of course. And
Right.
I love this because this is today, we are today together. And I think still as a little child. And this page, really, as your spiritual practice, you advise to walk around the natural setting and to look at everything you see and things you may see for the first time.
Mhm.
And I love, as it's today, January 7th, to adopt, as you say, the eyes of a child and the mind of the beginner. And I think this is so powerful. And I've attempted over the last few days to practice, knowing we would read this today. And I need to confess to you, I've discovered things as I keep looking that I did not see. And I've been in front of those views for 10 years, 12 years, sometimes 15 years.
Yep.
And it became more alive around me. So I really, want you as well to maybe read, if you wish, one of maybe the chapters you recommend for us, so that really resonates with you the most. I will read you the last sentence, and to all our friends listening. And you all should get this book because every day is structured as a date. Today's January 27th. And what I love is it's very powerful, very thoughtful, and it's easy to read. I will read you the one that resonates so much with me today. Carry this childlike wonder to everything you encounter all day. And this is a great spiritual practice, not for just today, but I think for all day.
Beautiful.
That is beautiful. Thank you.
No, thank you to you. What would be yours that you would want to maybe read or share that is really applicable to what we've lived or what we feel in 2021?
Should you do the thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's another one, June 22nd, the Immortal Diamond. I might read part of that in a minute, but let me read one of our favorites. And I think it does speak to the dealing with the traumas we're going through right now and being in the present, but also listening to nature. Okay. It's on January 6th. And a little background, this was something I actually experienced. I was in the process of being diagnosed with breast cancer, which I luckily was able to recover from quite well. But this was happening as I was being diagnosed. The title of it is When the Fox Poops, Stop and Listen. One morning as I was racing to my mammogram appointment, men get breast lumps too, and mine was suspicious and worrying. I rounded a curve, and there was a small red fox in the middle of the road. He just stood there, motionless, watching me. So I stopped the car and watched back. I was intrigued, but also pretty irritated because I was anxious to get to my appointment and find out what was happening with my body. But the fox didn't move, just kept staring at me. Then very nonchalantly, it squatted and proceeded to poop in the middle of the road. Just as nonchalantly, it then got up and sauntered off the road to the left. I started to drive on then when the fox then darted back across the road again right in front of me, forcing me to stop again. Now on the right shoulder, the fox looked back as if to say, "Did you get the message?" The message? What was the message? I wrestled with this the whole day long as I went through a couple rounds of tests and consultations. My soul often speaks to me through nature, although I don't mean this in a magical or fairy tale kind of way. So what was my soul and the wise young fox trying to tell me? Reflecting during the day, this is what I heard. Stop, slow down. Listen to the soothing voice of your soul and your God saying, "Fear not, I am with you." I also heard, you are carrying a lot of poop inside you right now. I was both terrified and furious about the lump. So let it go. Let it out. Let it go. So that's what I did. And gradually I felt a growing peace as the day wore on, even though I still had no medical answers. And the spiritual practice, thank you. The spiritual practice for that day is, if a fox stops and poops in your path today, in whatever guise that may take, simply stop and listen.
Be mindful.
Fabulously said.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. And this is fabulous because every day, everyone getting the book can actually, the day prior, maybe the night before you go to sleep, you reread the day and the next day, and the next day you read the next day. And it's so well done. How did you get the idea to write, daily meditations like this from trauma and abuse? How did that come about? Because I find it, from all the books you've done, obviously this is my favorite for those reasons.
Mm-hmm.
We were at a convention, excuse me, in Phoenix, and I was assisting a colleague of mine in her bookstore, and we were just chattering away, and I said, "What is the bookstore missing?" And she said, "Meditation books." And she looked at me and she said, "That's your assignment." That's how it was born.
That's how I was born. And then Sue came to me. I wasn't there at the time when they had this conversation. Sue came to me, walked up and said, "Pat, you know what we're doing next?" "We're writing a meditation book." I said,
I love it. Well, you're very well known in your practice to interweave spirituality really with your psychological work. I mean, this is something you so known about. Would you tell me more about how it works and why it is so important to all of us? As I pour myself, of course, a little more of the 49, because, as we talk about this is the spirit of the escape, the gold rush, the independence of the state of California to Mexico, the very true beginning. And, this is all about the golden, enterprising tribute to the past. So cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
It's a big answer, so we need a little wine on this one.
Absolutely. Need a little wine to be able to speak the answer too.
You want to go back to Utah?
Not yet. Okay, so, well, yes, as you said, Jean-Charles, one of the things that we've been noted for, that we've been committed to from the very beginning of our work, is that we really have worked to integrate and weave in the spirituality into the psychological work.
Yes.
And we don't, by spirituality, don't mean a particular religious tradition. Okay, we take whatever religious tradition or spiritual tradition of the person's in and help them to weave this together. So there's a spiritual aspect to all of our work, and and this particularly in our book.
Yes.
It's one way to think about this is it's no coincidence that or accident that wine and food are the natural elements of a sacrament, of a sacred meal that Christians call the Eucharist or communion. It's also the core of a number of religious rituals and traditions, like the Jewish Passover. So we just have found that the natural elements of ourselves, our bodies, our minds, okay, can be representatives and vessels of the holy, the sacred, the spiritual.
Yes.
The natural elements of wine and bread become the sign and source of communion with God, with the earth, and with each other. Our bodies can too. Our senses, also can connect us to whatever we believe is beyond us, whatever we believe is greater than us. Two of my favorite scriptures from the Bible really express this well. The first is from Psalm 34.
Yep.
Oh, taste and see the goodness of the Lord. Oh, taste and see the goodness of the Lord. You could also say, oh, taste and smell and touch and see the goodness of the Lord and hear the goodness of the Lord.
Yes.
Because all these things put us in touch with our soul and the sacred within that is within everything. So, second favorite scripture is from the prophet Isaiah. On this mountain, the Lord of hosts will provide all peoples a feast of rich foods and choice wines, juicy, rich food and pure, choice wines. On this mountain, he will destroy the veil that veils all peoples. The Lord God will wipe away the tears from all faces. The reproach of his people he will remove from the whole earth at this banquet. So listen to how sensuous this description of God's banquet is. That all of these things really put us in touch with a deeper part of ourselves and even a power that is greater than us. A second century saint named Saint Irenaeus wrote, "The glory of God is man and woman fully alive. The glory of God is man and woman fully alive." So our whole, the whole core of our work is to help people, really discover who they are, break free of the things that keep them from doing who they are, so that they can be fully alive, and and that glorifies God.
So well said, and how powerful examples. Ooh la la! I think I need another glass of wine after those three examples. But very powerful. I mean, as you quote, so much to learn from those few sentences.
Mm-hmm.
So much to meditate from, right?
Yes.
And on that, I just poured myself the Alchemy of Dreams, because I have a question. This beautiful wine that is, of course, a wine you love, which is Pinot Noir, and it represents the senses on the label, happens to be lately one of my favorite new series, because it's called the Alchemy of Dreams. And
I love the label.
Well, your practice is called the double rainbow.
Yes.
When you look at the rainbow, you dream, you escape, you let yourself wander into another world. So what was the meaning of that, and what shall we learn from it? Because I know, cheers, there's a lot of meaning behind it.
There is.
Well, first we discovered it. We were driving to a conference in Salt Lake City, Utah. Had gone through a beautiful thunderstorm, and then all of a sudden in front of us, range of mountains, but the sky was just dark. The sun was behind us and brilliant. All the makings of a rainbow. And sure enough, in front of us, I had goosebumps. Was a full, complete double rainbow. And it was so awesome. Were we in the kind of like the plateau?
We were out in the open desert with some mountains around us.
Yes. Yeah. So it just
we can imagine the sense.
Magnanimous. It's hard to put into words. And we stopped the car and pulled over and just got out and watched it for the longest time. It was so bright and brilliant.
And we held each other for
so
almost trembling as we watched this, because it was awe-inspiring, just really awesome.
Yeah.
And it was one of the experiences. This was fairly early in our relationship. It was one of the experiences that really bonded us, because we felt so deeply connected with that rainbow, the natural world we were in, but also beyond that with God and with each other. And so that, that was just an experience that we had early on. And then when we started our practice and counseling together a few years later, Sue thought she was afraid to suggest this to me because she thought I was going to think she was kind of nutty for saying this.
Airy fairy.
Airy fairy. She said, why don't we call our practice
Double rainbow?
And I surprised her and myself and said, oh, that's marvelous. That's perfect.
So it was a God thing.
But the other part of it is it's also, become a symbol for us of our integration of the psychological and the spiritual, the natural and the spiritual. A double rainbow is one light that is diffracted into these two rainbows that are actually mirror images of each other. Okay, the colors are actually reversed from each other, the mirror images. Yes. And that's psychology and spirituality. That's the Beautiful. Spirit. That's the spirit and the natural world. They are one light. Just they are diffracted in different ways. And to really see the whole picture, okay, of life, the universe, ourselves, we have to see both dimensions at the same time.
That's right.
So that's what it came to mean to us.
Wow, what a thoughtful name, and it caught my attention. We had to ask you this question, and what a meaning. And now I can understand why my daughters, twin ladies, always draw rainbows going in opposite direction.
Yes.
They somehow in the mirror fits as getting and intertwining each other. So Here we go. Maybe you enlightened me now to see the truth into their own drawings.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, nature is always, very much into your thoughts and your writing, into the preservation, obviously, of our serenity. Can you tell us more about that as well? Because you've described it so powerfully.
I don't get the question.
Let me answer them. So, how is nature a part of
yes
of our work? And so we were reading your book, Sue and I, the other day. We've been kind of sitting down and going through it page by page together. And
he needs a lot of psychological work, doesn't he?
It's what?
The man who wrote it needs a lot of psychotherapy, doesn't he?
He's a little crazy, but in a good way. If you're not a little crazy, you're not sane.
Oh, good. Thank you. I'll remind my lovely wife, Gina, of that in a moment.
Please tell Gina that.
I know she's watching and listening, so, she's echoing. Yes.
So as we were reading it, and Sue and I were just talking about, so what is an alchemist, okay? And, what's the alchemy of the senses? And Sue just blurted out, well, God's an alchemist. And I thought, oh, Sue, that's profound. That's beautiful. Because, God takes, like the elements that, that burst out of the stars, okay? Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, iron, all these elements. And eventually out of all that, we were fashioned. Now, if that isn't almost magical alchemy, I don't know what is.
That's right.
The earth itself was, was created or evolved in that same way. An alchemy of all these things coming together. What's wine? It's just, it's the alchemy of, of sun and earth, soil, rain, water, rock, and minerals in the soil, volcanic, minerals, in some places in Napa, and the grape itself is an alchemist that brings all that together, and then you as a vintner, as an alchemist, to create wine from all of that.
That's right.
So magical.
It's magical. So. All of these ways of understanding the natural world as the alchemy of God, okay, I think really help us to be in touch with a deeper part of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that also means that we need to be out there with nature more. I mean, particularly in our time right now, I mean, turn off your cell phone, turn off the TV news, get away from your computer, from social media, and get out and enjoy a beautiful day. Okay.
That's right.
As soon as I are sitting here, the sun is starting to set a little bit. And there's some clouds, and there's begin to be some color in the clouds as the sun sets to the southwest of us. So sit and watch a whole sunset.
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's fabulous. And I'd love to go back, if we can, for a moment, because we're drinking this great wines, and we're going to drink soon the Alchemist wine of Mother Nature, because this is the biodynamic wine, the 1.5 acre that you love from Napa. Mm-hmm. Tell us about addiction at large. We all addicted to some shape or form. Mm-hmm. You focus on addiction. Why? And how do we acknowledge addiction and win over addiction, as we all have them, right? Is there anyone who doesn't have an addiction of any shape or form?
Yeah, for a lot of people, it's a minor addiction of some kind. But to other people, it's a major addiction. But yes, the human brain is very susceptible, as powerful as it is. Yes. It's very susceptible to addiction. Let me start with this. I once gave it, one of my specialties is sex addiction. People who are addicted to compulsively seek sexual pleasure in a way that's almost like a drug. They kind of drug themselves through the sexual behavior, and they become addictive compulsive. But what happens to them is that you actually become more and more numb to your soul, to your body, to your senses, and your mind. Okay. I gave a talk one time to a group of sex addicts who'd invited me, and I think they didn't know quite what to do with what I was saying. But what I told them was that even though they're sex addicts and they were, indulging in all kinds of sex, very often very compulsively, they really weren't very sexual. Because they were not really, they were numb, and they were not really in touch with the beauty of, and really feel the real pleasure, the sensuousness, the wonderful connection to your lover. Okay?
Yes.
All of that had gotten blotted out because it had become addictive.
Huh.
Okay. I mean, can be the same way with alcohol. If you're susceptible to becoming an alcoholic, okay, you start to use this wonderful gift compulsively. You can't stop yourself, and it eventually numbs your whole being. Meanwhile, your brain tells you that nothing bad's happening. And so that's called denial. And the first thing you have to really do is to break through denial, which is very difficult, and really face the reality of what's happening to you.
And ask for help.
And then ask for help. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then actually the process of going into recovery, as it's called, or healing from your addiction, is a process that is both social and spiritual and psychological. Okay. You got to be with other people in most cases who are struggling with the same thing. That's the basis of the 12-step programs. You've got to get in touch with your soul and with your higher power. Mm-hmm. And you really have to discover, new joys for ways to live, new sources of real pleasure, real, sense, awareness and enjoyment. So,
and being with other people help you to do that, to realize about your own, or to see it in others in order to further realize it for your own. That's the whole idea within the steps.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah,
I see.
Yeah.
But we all have, whether it's a telephone, whether it's sex, whether it's alcohol, addiction in a sense, right? So I think it's an endless fight of human society at large, right? And human
Yes, it is. Exactly. Yeah.
It's something you cannot not do.
So some habits can be like that, there's sort of a spectrum between habits that kind of take us over. They become automatic, something we cannot not do, all the way to full addiction. So, but we're all someplace on that spectrum.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, which is amazing is you see results in what you do, right? So
yes.
Everything can be in many ways treated as long as we have the will.
Exactly. The openness and the will.
Yeah. To go to that place of acceptance and vulnerability and acknowledging that we need open arm help from others allow us to get there. It's probably half of the way.
It's a very vulnerable process. And I think many times the core challenge is to look deep inside and to know that you as an individual are magnificent, beautiful, magnificent person of value. And I've done all these horrendous things that I'm not proud of. And I feel badly and sometimes shame about. And then to be able to be vulnerable and to say, I need help. I want to stop. Help.
Yeah. Yeah, so well said. Well, to that point, in the times we live in, what gives hope or gives you hope? I know it's a big question as a correlation to this one. What would be your view there?
Okay.
Yeah, gives me hope.
I know you asked me, you're pushing us to go deeper and deeper here. I hope we have 2 or 3 more hours because this is so exciting.
That sounds good to us. We're game.
Well, we only have 3 bottles of wine, but we know the cellar is not too far away.
We'll be out. We'll be out.
Well, is what gives you hope or what gives people hope? Give us, after such a great experience you have, your view of that.
What gives me hope many, 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 many times is listening to my children and my grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And they go about life just as it is. They're in the moment to the best of their ability, and they're living it to the fullest of their ability. And too often, people of all other ages, I think they get so worried and bogged down because they're addicted to the TV news, and that is depressing to say the least. But the kids are wonderful. We have twin granddaughters at the University of Mizzou. They're amazing. I mean, life is just full of life for them, full of life. And that gives me life and hope that, there's so many good people in the world. There's so much goodness in the world, and it doesn't get good press. That's my belief.
Part of what gives me hope is to see the capacity inside of all of us. Okay,
yes.
To open ourselves up to to goodness, to love, to be vulnerable. There's a great capacity within us to change. And so, you have to tap into those capacities, and you have to get away from things that really diminish that capacity. Okay, but there's a real deep inner light within each one of us, which we call soul. Okay, divine spark of life, and we're always capable of tapping into that. Okay, and that capacity is what gives me hope. Both on because I've seen this with individuals and couples in groups that I've worked with as a therapist to see them really come alive, okay, and tap into the goodness inside, tap into their best self, and become that best self and overcome, their trauma or their addiction. But I also see this on an international level. I mean,
Of course.
the pandemic has been really, really difficult, and some people have not responded well to it, but so many people have, with such great love and care and intelligence, and spirituality. So ultimately, that's what gives me the hope, that capacity we have to be ourselves and to change.
Yeah, I'm with you both, 100%. So you've used a lot the expression being present. And this is obviously, I believe, the biggest challenge of the 21st century. Being present with all the tools that you've alluded to, the telephone, the televisions, the iPad, all those tools that we constantly, engage by, we're not present. We somewhere else. So
Yes.
What do you mean by being there in the present moment? And as well, if you don't mind, how do you advise all of us to be?
Be aware of your breath,
Mm-hmm.
aware that you're breathing in and breathing out. You're aware of where your left foot is and your right foot is.
Yeah.
When we were little children, we were taught by someone that when we came to the curve of a street, to stop, pause, look to the left and look to the right.
I'm doing it.
And make a decision. If it's safe, cross the street. If not, wait a minute. So we're in the present moment. We're conscious to be able to make a healthy decision, to love, to be kind, to hold our tongue, not let it blurt something out that we wish it hadn't. That's what I mean. How about you, Pat?
I would
Well,
also
thank you, Sue.
Yeah, thank you. So take moments of, unplugged from all the distractions we've been describing that our modern world gives us, and just be present to either a person, okay, or be present to something in nature. I have these experiences that I call backyard epiphanies, and I just go into, when I need some time to reconnect with my deeper self and reconnect with serenity, peace, I'll go in the backyard and I'll just stop and look. Lower part of our lot is wooded, and I just stop and I just look, and become just immersed and present, into all the nature that's around us in our backyard, or like I said before, I stop and really look at the sunset or the sunrise. One of the things, for me, that's one of the most powerful ways to become mindful is light. So I guess I'm pretty visual in this way, and that I just,
Yes.
when, like earlier, I was looking out in our kitchen window. There are a lot of trees, there's a forest, and there's a lot of cottonwood and sycamore trees, which have these white branches and trunks, okay? And in the winter particularly, I just love to just stare at and be present to the light, the winter light on those white branches.
The alpenglow.
Okay, and that brings me to a really deeper place and brings me serenity. So to take moments like that wherever you can.
Just stop.
Just stop. Be present to whatever is there with you now.
So powerful. Thank you. And I'm looking left, looking right. My left foot, right foot is on the ground. My left hand is with my glass, of course,
Yeah.
without addiction, without excess.
Exactly.
Without station, with 1.5 acre. And I need to ask you another question is,
sure.
You have Double Rainbow together. You've written many books, and And before we leave tonight, you need to tell us about the other books as well. But what is your passion and inspiration? So it's both. Maybe you want to start with inspiration and then move to your passion, because you've obviously inspired me a great deal, as well as Gina, at the wedding, to the point that you magnetized me in many ways through our discussions. And I wanted us to visit again, and going through your book and spending this time together. I'm so engaged into so many great things you've said. And first of all, I want to thank you for that. And second, I'd love to know more. So tell us about inspiration and dreams.
And dreams?
And dreams.
Oh.
Or passion.
Because it's only the beginning. We're allowed to dream at all time.
Yes, absolutely. You want me to go first?
No.
Good.
What's my dream?
I'm going to get a little more wine at the meantime.
Which one are we drinking now?
Well, I went to 1.5 Acre because
good.
You talk so well about nature that, it's so important. And we share so much of that, as you allude a lot of it throughout the passage of your book. In our discussion tonight, you find so much in nature. I need to tell both of you, Sue and Pat, that nature for me at a young age was my best friend. Obviously, I would imagine today it's my gorgeous wife, Gina, and my ladies. But my best friend, in a sense, that I would find in nature all the things you just so enlighteningly described. And this wine is a tribute to nature, because it's all about organic, biodynamic, listening to the lunar cycle, the solar system, the interaction with the earth, and doing everything within the rhythm of Mother Nature, the biorhythm of Mother Nature. So this is a biodynamic wine from Raymond Vineyards, where you were for Patrick and Michelle's wedding. And this is our ultimate blend. This is our 2016, made out of leather, as it's, the preparation of what treats the vineyards of the plant, fermented into the cow's stomach, because we use the cow as the functional animal. The venerated Indian animal that is the mother, we see her as the first, and then the passage from nature to nature. So I resonate so much with you. So as we talk about inspiration and dreams, for me, I got to tell you, my inspiration has always been Mother Nature. I find so much into her. As you said, when you look at the branches and the snow, when you look at the rainbow, when you look at, something you've never noticed in your surrounding, and you suddenly see, oh, here it is, and I've never seen it and looked at it. It really resonates to me. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
That's my inspiration.
I think through the years professionally, excuse me, what has inspired me so tremendously is the courage, the willingness, the vulnerability of individuals who came into my office wanting to be better, whatever that might entail. And then when I invited them little by little to look inside,
yes,
and to find out who they are, they were scared. They were terrorized because they thought they were going to find something horrendous and horrific. And little by little, through their strength and courage and vulnerability, they were willing, like a tree sheds its bark or its leaves, to shed a little bit, and to find out the truth of who they are. That is so awesome. I've got goosebumps. It's wonderful.
Me too. That makes me want to become a psychotherapist. I should become the wine psychotherapist.
You should be the wine psychotherapist, exactly.
But Sue, so beautifully said, and we can feel as we meet you, your genuine altruism, your love of others, and your love of wanting to help resolve a lot of those knots, as you said, and allow people to shed and become the great person they naturally are. And for whatever reason, something happened along the way that makes us believe that we're not, but we all are, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Right. I want to know how you created 1.5 acre, because I am so sensitive to taste. And when Pat offered me a sip of his 1.5 acre at the dinner, I was awestruck, because first of all, what touched my nostrils was the bouquet. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
And then the lips, it's so velvety. I've never, ever, ever experienced the liquid velvet
Oh,
as I sip this wine. So that's why it's my favorite.
well, Sue, beautiful, of course, and very meaningful description. We made this wine a success, exactly like you make your patient a success. We listen to the inner side of Mother Nature, and we let her be. And we let her tell us, from her vulnerability to her expression and her true willingness to express herself, to tell her who she is. Wow. And I say she because, as a Frenchman, beautiful things are always feminine, including Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. So she's a she, and we always say she decides every year to give us the best of herself. And that year, we respect her so much with this wine because we do nothing except just guide her to be herself. Mm. And to the very powerful meaning of what you've described earlier with your patient, and the psychotherapist work that you do so well, and through all your books, is exactly the same work. So we didn't do much. We just helped guiding her to what she was willing to give us. And the description you gave, you're so kind for that, is exactly the goals we've had at the beginning, because we always in wine start with an intention. And maybe it's the same process with you with the patient. She or he comes with an issue that they describe, and often you find others that are totally unrelated, but happens to help you to solve the one they thought they had, right?
Right.
And it's often the same with wine. We are psychotherapists of Mother Nature.
Yes, you are. That's beautifully said.
Yes.
Jean-Charles,
yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
That actually brings me to one of the things.
I have to drink.
To that.
Let's do
it. There's a couple of things to inspire me. And one of them is actually related to what we're just saying about this wine, 1.5 acres. I have always through my life been very inspired by things that blend together, that synthesize, where you can integrate one thing with the other. We've talked about the psychology and spirituality and how they can interact and link with each other. Science and religion, I see the same thing, or are developing understandings of the universe and the cosmos, and how do we fit the new science that we're learning about that with spirituality, and really coming up with blending all that together and coming up with the new story, the new origin story for our universe and for ourselves as human beings. So all those things, those kinds of things that synthesize things always inspire me and excite me. And that's part of the reason why I love this wine, not only because of the wonderful bouquet and taste, but just the idea that the 5 different varietals, from this one small plot, this one place, are blended together and become, this, you just said, become this yum, become this, beautiful wine with all these multiple layers of flavor. So anyway, that's part of what inspires me. I'm also inspired by what Sue described about what we experience with people in therapy, to see them blossom and come alive. But the biggest inspiration in my life is Sue.
Thank you.
You know, meeting Sue and seeing, as you said, Jean-Charles, her incredible capacity to love people. Not just me, but you know, many people, and incredible, you know, passion for seeing people come alive has been wonderful. She's in more recent last few years, she's been inspiring me on a daily basis for how she deals with her physical limitations. She mentioned she's somewhat confined to a wheelchair, and how Sue has dealt with these things with great spirit and courage.
Fear and trepidation.
Well, that's what you give to make me feel, fear and trepidation.
The wheelchair.
But she hasn't lost her rhythm, as I saw on the dance floor.
She did not. She has not. She has not lost her spirit or
That's
her
right.
capacity for love. So,
no, thank you both so much for that. What you know, you talk about goosebumps. I have them right now. That's why I'm moving. So besides this book, I would love for all our friends, you're such inspiration and such guidance, to maybe tell us a little bit about the other books that you've written, because there's many. Choose the one you desire to describe, and we'll make sure everybody can get them as well, because they are unbelievable guidance again.
Well, this is our most recent book, and the book actually that I'm proudest of. This is my favorite book of the three that we've written. This is you can access this or purchase this through Amazon, and they will also have our other two books. The second book that we did was Shattered Soul,
Yes.
5 Pathways to Healing the Spirit After Trauma and Abuse. And this is a daily meditation book. That's actually sort of a guidebook for the healing journey. For individuals or groups who've been wounded in some significant way. And it provides a five pathways process to come to psychological and also spiritual healing. And then the first book was kind of a special focus. Part of our work has been with survivors of clerical sexual abuse, but we also then evolved into working with perpetrators of clerical sexual abuse, the priests and ministers and brothers, you know, of various religious groups who abuse minors, and which has been very difficult but very powerful and rewarding work. Because what has been surprising is to see the light of their soul deep within them, even though it's been hidden over by some really dark behavior, and to see their goodness start to come forth and come alive in them as they face what they've done, take responsibility, and seek healing. So anyway, that book about clerical sexual abuse is called Broken Trust.
Yes.
So anyway, all three of those books are available through Amazon.
Oh, thank you so much. And from being unbelievable lights to all of us within the JCB Live. Now, you're going to have to give us a last message, the message of hope to all of us. We're still in January. We're still wishing each other a joyful and phenomenal new year, whatever it means for every one of us. And we know the definition has to be different for all of us. And we'd love to hear your overall message to the world, not just of wine and food, but whoever is elected to stay with us all the way through tonight.
Can I say the golden rule? Sure. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yes, very powerful. Indeed, indeed.
When I was going through my cancer treatment 5 years ago, I developed a whole lot of anxiety and fear, and there was a whole lot of reasons why that was true. But afterwards, when I started to get well again, all the fears disappeared.
Mhm.
And one day I was driving with on a golf cart, playing a round of golf with my grandson Kevin, and he asked me. He's a very deep spiritual young man, and he asked me, "So, what did you learn from your cancer experience?" I said, "I learned that 90% of our fears are delusions. 90% are delusions that our brain has made up,
For sure.
that are not really founded in real truth."
Yeah.
And so, one of my messages is, realize that a lot of your fears, especially the fears that hold you back from being, your own best self, your own best friend to yourself, 90% of those fears are not real. And so don't let them control you.
Yeah.
Mm.
The other one that I'd like to say to people is really discover and then learn to trust the voice and the light of your soul deep within you. Come to know your soul. Come to know how to listen to her, to listen to your soul. No one, okay, can silence your soul. No one or no thing can extinguish the light of your soul. Okay, so learn to be in touch with that deep part of yourself and learn to listen to her.
Have a voice.
Listen to her voice.
No, have a voice.
And have a voice coming from your own soul.
Yeah.
Good.
That's right. Ooh la la.
La la.
Ooh la la.
Now it's time to go to the dance floor.
Well, I got to tell you, made us dance because what a great moment. What a double rainbow, as we said. If we even are patient, we cannot get the two of you. So how fortunate we were tonight to be able to have the both of you with us. I really want to thank you so much because obviously, thanks to our dear friend Patrick Egan, we could obviously meet, which was phenomenal for both Gina and I. I got to tell you, we talked to our daughters about you, our twins, and how powerful you were that evening and that whole day that we lived in between two fires of all
Yes, between two fires, yes.
The fires of life and the fires of nature.
Yes.
And, reading your books, listening to you tonight, and being able to share not only your wisdom, but your guidance and your thoughts and your incredible life is fantastic. And I really want to thank you for being with us, both of you tonight. And it was very powerful, extremely energizing, and very inspirational. So thank you so much. You have friends in Napa Valley, Sonoma, Burgundy, all around the world. And I really recommend to all of our friends listening and being with us tonight or replaying this amazing time together to get the books as well. And if you need help, as we all do, obviously Double Rainbow is with you at all times. So Sue and Pat, I want to thank you so much. We should invite Patrick. He's not far away to have a toast with you too. Here is a glass. Amazing,
Patrick.
Thank you.
We know it is incredible. So to all our friends, get engaged into the spirit and into your mind.
Cheers.
Cheers.